Ladies, let's talk real today. You've been giving your time, your heart, your attention, maybe even your energy, to a man who's been moving slow, acting unsure, and keeping you in the maybe section of his life. And deep down you're wondering, when will he make up his mind? Well, here's the truth. Men don't make up their minds just because time passes. They make up their minds because you require it. You don't ask to be chosen. You live in such a way that he has no choice but to choose you or lose you. Knowing your worth is the foundation of any healthy relationship and the key to ensuring you're treated with respect and appreciation. Too often, people fall into the trap of thinking that if they just do enough, give enough, or love hard enough, someone will finally see their value. But the truth is, if you don't see your own value first, no one else will see it for you. Your worth isn't determined by how much you give to someone. It's determined by the fact that you are inherently valuable as you are. When you recognize this, you stop living in a constant state of audition, trying to prove to someone why they should choose you, and instead live in a state of confidence, knowing the right person will recognize what you bring without you having to sell yourself like a product. When you walk into a room with the mindset that you are the prize, your energy shifts. You carry yourself differently. You're not scanning the room to see who notices you. You're simply being yourself, and people can feel that confidence. It's not arrogance, it's self-assurance. The difference between the two is simple. Arrogance says, I'm better than you, while self-assurance says, I'm proud of who I am. And when you are proud of who you are, you naturally draw in people who value you for the right reasons. The danger of not knowing your worth is that you can easily fall into unhealthy relationship patterns. If you believe deep down that you have to earn love or attention, you may tolerate disrespect, inconsistency, or being treated as an option. You might overlook red flags because you're too focused on keeping someone interested instead of asking yourself, do they deserve me? It's like walking into a luxury store and seeing a price tag that's too low. You start questioning the quality. People operate the same way. If you treat yourself like you're on the discount rack, others will too. Knowing your worth also means setting boundaries. Boundaries are not walls to keep people out. They are guidelines for how you expect to be treated. When you have them, you communicate to the world that you value your peace, your time, and your heart. And here's the key. You have to enforce them consistently. It's not enough to say you won't tolerate something. You have to act when those lines are crossed. The moment you stand firm in your worth, a man either steps up to meet it or he steps aside, and either outcome is a win for you. A great example of this is a woman named Layla, who was dating a man for over a year. He enjoyed her company, relied on her support, and even introduced her to friends. But every time the conversation of commitment came up, he would dodge it, saying he wasn't ready. In the past, Layla would have accepted that answer, hoping that with more time and patience, he would eventually choose her. But this time, she knew her worth. She calmly told him she wanted a committed relationship, and if he couldn't provide that, she would walk away. She didn't give ultimatums out of desperation. She simply stated her standard and stuck to it. The man hesitated at first, thinking she was bluffing, but when she actually stepped back and focused on herself, rebuilding her routine, reconnecting with friends, and living her life fully, he realized what he was losing. Within 2 months, he came back with a clear commitment, not because she begged, but because she made him understand that being with her was a privilege, not a guarantee. And here's the important part. Had he not returned, Layla would have been fine, because her self-worth wasn't tied to his choice. This example highlights the essence of knowing your worth. It's not about manipulating someone into valuing you. It's about valuing yourself so deeply that their choice or lack thereof doesn't shake your sense of self. When you reach that point, your relationships become healthier because you're not operating from a place of fear or scarcity. Instead, you're operating from abundance, knowing that you are enough and that anyone who gets to be with you is fortunate. When you internalize your value, you no longer chase, beg, or compromise in ways that hurt you. You stop settling for breadcrumbs when you deserve the whole loaf. You don't waste energy trying to convince someone you're worthy. You let your presence, your character, and your life speak for itself. And when a man sees that you're the prize, the blessing, the upgrade, he knows that if he doesn't step up, someone else will. That quiet, unshakable confidence is what forces the right people to choose you, not because you demanded it, but because you lived in a way that left no other choice. One of the biggest mistakes many women make in relationships is acting like a committed partner before a man has truly committed to them. It often comes from a good place, care, and a desire to show you can be a great partner. But the reality is, giving someone all the benefits of commitment without them earning it removes the urgency for them to make you a priority. If he is getting the cooking, the cleaning, the emotional support, the physical affection, and the loyalty without putting a title or clear commitment on the relationship, then from his perspective, why change anything? You're giving him all the privileges without requiring the responsibility. The psychology behind this is simple. People value what they have to work for. When something is easily available without effort, it's often taken for granted. This is why companies offer trial periods before asking for payment. They know that without a deadline, customers will just keep enjoying the free version forever. Relationships can fall into the same trap. If you become the trial period that never ends, a man can enjoy all the comforts of a girlfriend or wife without ever needing to officially choose you. This doesn't mean you need to be cold, distant, or transactional in love. It means you need to set boundaries that protect your value. The difference between being kind and being taken advantage of is whether you're offering those acts of love in a relationship where the commitment is clear, mutual, and respected. If you skip that step and jump straight into giving your all, you send the unspoken message that he doesn't need to earn more, because he already has everything. Men, just like anyone, are more likely to take decisive action when they feel there's something to gain and something to lose. If a man knows you won't stick around indefinitely without commitment, he has to decide whether to step up or let go. But if he knows you'll keep showing up no matter how unclear the relationship is, he can stay in the comfort zone indefinitely. And while you're busy proving you can be the perfect partner, he's not feeling any real pressure to match your energy or meet your needs. An excellent example of this is a woman named Serena. She met a man named Daniel, and they quickly hit it off. Within a few weeks, she was spending most of her time at his apartment. She cooked his meals, did his laundry, planned his weekends, and even helped him with work projects. Whenever he seemed stressed, she was there to encourage and comfort him. The problem: Daniel never once called her his girlfriend. If anyone asked about them, he'd say, "We're just hanging out." At first, Serena brushed it off, thinking it was only a matter of time before he made things official. But months went by, and nothing changed. She finally realized she was living like his partner while he was living like a single man. One day, Serena decided she wasn't going to keep playing that role without the title. She told Daniel, kindly but firmly, that she valued their connection, but she was only willing to invest that much energy in someone who was willing to commit to her. She stopped staying over so often, cut back on doing his chores, and started focusing on her own hobbies, friends, and goals again. Within weeks, Daniel noticed the difference. He missed her presence, her care, and the way she made his life easier. And for the first time, he realized he had to make a choice: either step up and claim her as his partner or risk losing her. A month later, he asked her to be his girlfriend, and this time, the relationship moved forward with clarity and mutual effort. The point here is not that Serena manipulated Daniel. It's that she stopped giving away the full package without a commitment. She created the space for him to see what life would be like without those privileges, and that clarity pushed him to decide. Had he chosen not to commit, she would have still been better off, because she was no longer giving her time and energy to someone unwilling to match her intentions. When you stop acting like a girlfriend without the title, you protect your energy and give yourself the opportunity to be with someone who truly values you. You're not punishing the other person, you're simply aligning your actions with your standards. And when you do that, you force the question to the surface: is he going to choose you, or is he going to let you go? Either way, you win, because you're no longer investing in a relationship that's stuck in limbo. Having standards is not about being picky or demanding. It's about protecting your self-worth and ensuring you're treated with the respect you deserve. Standards are like the blueprint for how people can show up in your life. They're not flexible guidelines that you bend whenever someone you like doesn't meet them. They're the non-negotiables that help you filter out who is truly compatible with you. When you know what you need from a relationship, commitment, consistency, honesty, respect, you have to hold firm to those requirements, even when it's tempting to make exceptions because you're afraid of losing someone. The challenge is that emotions often cloud our judgment. When you're drawn to someone, it's easy to excuse behaviors that don't align with your standards. You might tell yourself, "Hey, he's just busy," when in reality, he's showing inconsistency. You might think, "He's not ready for a relationship yet," but maybe with time, even though you've clearly stated you want commitment. The problem with lowering your standards is that it creates a silent permission slip for someone to treat you however they want. Once you start compromising on things that matter deeply to you, you set a precedent that your needs are optional, and people will treat them that way. A healthy relationship is built when two people's values and expectations align. If you value trust and emotional availability, but the person you're seeing avoids communication and keeps their feelings guarded, then there's a fundamental mismatch. Sticking to your standards doesn't mean you can't be understanding or patient. It means you don't abandon your core needs in exchange for temporary companionship. If you hold on to a relationship that violates your standards, you're essentially trading your long-term happiness for short-term comfort, and that's a dangerous exchange. It's also important to understand that standards are not ultimatums. They're self-respect in action. An ultimatum is something you give to control another person's behavior. Do this or I'll leave. A standard, on the other hand, is a decision you make for yourself. This is what I require, and if it's not met, I'll remove myself from the situation. The difference is subtle but powerful. You're not trying to force anyone to meet your standards. You're simply making sure you only stay in situations that align with them. Consider the example of Maya, a woman who had been casually dating a man named Chris for 6 months. From the very beginning, Mia had been clear that she wanted a committed relationship. Chris, on the other hand, always responded with vague answers like, "Let's just see where this goes." He would be attentive for a few days, then disappear for a week without explanation. Mia liked him and enjoyed their time together, so she convinced herself to wait and see if things would progress. But over time, she realized she was constantly feeling anxious, waiting for his texts, and wondering if she was the only one he was seeing. One day, after Chris canceled yet another plan at the last minute, Mia decided she'd had enough. She calmly told him that she needed consistency and a clear commitment to continue investing in the relationship. Chris hesitated and said he wasn't ready to commit. Mia didn't argue or try to persuade him. She simply said she respected his decision, but was stepping away to find a relationship that aligned with her needs. At first, Chris didn't take her seriously, but when she stopped answering late-night calls and quit rearranging her life to fit his unpredictable schedule, he realized she wasn't bluffing. A month later, he reached out, saying he was ready to commit. The important part here isn't that he came back. It's that Mia was willing to walk away and stick to her standards even if he didn't. That's the power of self-respect. It protects you from settling for less and ensures that anyone who stays in your life does so because they can meet your needs, not because you lowered them to fit their comfort. When you stick to your standards, you communicate something powerful. I am worth the effort it takes to be with me. And here's the truth. Anyone who is truly right for you will not see your standards as obstacles. They will see them as a roadmap to building something meaningful with you. Those who walk away when you set boundaries are simply making room for the ones who will gladly meet them. In the end, your standards are not about pushing people away. They're about protecting your peace and making sure your relationships are built on mutual respect and alignment. You'll force the right man to choose you not by begging, convincing, or compromising your worth, but by living in a way that shows you won't settle for anything less than what you deserve. And when you do that, You'll never have to wonder if you were chosen out of convenience. You'll know you were chosen because you are truly valued. Creating space for a man to step up is one of the most powerful yet often overlooked moves in a relationship. Many women believe that if they just talk enough, explain enough, or remind him often of what they need, he will eventually take action. But the reality is, words can easily get lost in the noise, especially if he's already comfortable. When you're always available, always initiating, and always doing the work to keep the relationship moving forward, you unintentionally take away his opportunity to feel the weight of responsibility. A man who is never required to step forward will often stand still, not because he doesn't care, but because there's no urgency for change. Giving space doesn't mean you're playing games or punishing someone. It's not about ignoring calls to make him wonder where you are or creating fake drama to get a reaction. True space is about pulling back your constant availability and energy so that he has the chance to see what your absence feels like. When someone is used to you being there at every moment, they can start taking your presence for granted. Space acts as a mirror. It reflects back to him how much you contribute, how much you matter, and what life looks like without the version of you that's always giving. This process can be uncomfortable because it requires patience and trust. When you step back, you're resisting the urge to check in constantly, to fill every silence, or to make sure the connection is alive at all times. But here's the truth. If you're always holding the rope in the relationship, he never has to pick it up. When you let go, it forces him to decide whether he will grab it and pull his weight or simply let it drop. And that moment of decision is where clarity lies. It's important to understand that space is not about disappearing. It's about rebalancing. Instead of texting all day, you respond when you have time, not instantly out of habit. Instead of rearranging your plans for him, you keep your commitments and let him fit into your world. Instead of always suggesting meetups or planning dates, you wait to see if he initiates. This shift changes the dynamic from you being the driver of the relationship to you allowing him the opportunity to take the wheel. An excellent example of this is a woman named Naomi who had been dating a man named Alex for almost a year. Naomi noticed she was always the one texting first, planning their weekends, and making sure they stayed connected. Alex enjoyed the relationship but seemed to put in minimal effort. Naomi felt frustrated, but she also feared that if she pulled back, he might drift away. Still, she decided she needed to see where his commitment really stood. She stopped initiating every conversation, began focusing more on her own life, and waited to see what Alex would do. At first, Alex didn't notice much. He assumed Naomi was just busy, but after a couple of weeks, he started realizing he missed her voice, her energy, and the way she brought life into his days. He noticed they hadn't gone out in a while, and that the fun, thoughtful texts she used to send were no longer there unless he started the conversation. The absence of her constant presence made him see just how much she contributed. Soon, Alex began calling more, planning their outings, and checking in without her prompting. Naomi hadn't begged, argued, or guilt-tripped him. She had simply given him the space to fill the gaps she left when she stopped carrying the entire connection alone. In the end, creating space is not a trick. It's an act of self-respect. It says, I will give my time and energy, but I won't overcompensate for someone else's lack of effort. It shifts the balance so that the relationship becomes mutual instead of one-sided. The right man will recognize that space as an opportunity to step up because he won't want to risk losing something valuable. The wrong man will let the distance grow, and while that may hurt, it also gives you clarity about where you stand. When you create space, you give him the freedom to show his intentions through action rather than words. If he steps forward, you know he values you enough to meet you halfway. If he doesn't, you save yourself from investing more into someone who isn't willing to invest back. And in that way, space is not just a pause, it's a filter that reveals the truth about the relationship without you having to say a single word. Focusing on your own growth and joy is one of the most magnetic things you can do, not just in relationships, but in life overall. When you are deeply engaged in building a life you love, you radiate a kind of energy that draws people toward you without you having to chase, convince, or compete. Too many people put their lives on pause when they start liking someone, waiting for calls, making themselves constantly available, and tailoring their schedules around that person. While it might feel like dedication, it often communicates something else entirely, that your world revolves around them instead of around your own goals, passions, and happiness. A person who is constantly waiting for someone else to validate them or make them happy becomes predictable and, frankly, less exciting. But when you're living fully, working on your career, exploring hobbies, nurturing friendships, traveling, learning new skills, you become a moving train. Anyone who wants to be with you has to get on board and keep up. This doesn't mean you don't care about love. It means you don't make love your only source of fulfillment. When you have your own momentum, you don't sit wondering if someone will choose you. You're busy choosing yourself every single day. Growth is attractive because it signals ambition, self-respect, and independence. Joy is attractive because it signals emotional health, resilience, and gratitude. Together, they create a powerful combination. People are drawn to those who inspire them, not those who drain them with constant neediness. This doesn't mean you need to be perfect or never have low days. It simply means your life has direction and purpose beyond romantic attention. There's also a psychological reason this works. When someone sees you fully immersed in your passions and thriving without their constant involvement, it creates a sense of intrigue and admiration. They start thinking, she's already fulfilled. Imagine how amazing it would be to be part of her life. On the other hand, if you seem to be sitting around waiting for them to fill your time, the dynamic shifts. They may feel no urgency to invest because they already have your constant focus without earning it. A great example of this is a woman named Kayla, who had been dating a man named Jordan for a few months. In the beginning, Kayla found herself rearranging her schedule every time Jordan wanted to see her, even canceling plans with friends. She noticed that she was always the one waiting for his messages and felt anxious when he didn't reach out. Eventually, she realized she was putting her life on hold for someone who hadn't even proven he was fully committed. So Kayla made a conscious shift. She signed up for a photography class she had been wanting to take, started going on weekend hikes with friends, and finally began planning the solo trip she'd been dreaming about. She wasn't trying to make Jordan jealous. She was simply reclaiming her life. She still enjoyed spending time with him, but she no longer made him the center of her world. Within a few weeks, Jordan noticed the change. Instead of always finding her available, he sometimes had to plan ahead to see her. When they did meet, she had exciting stories, new experiences, and a glow that came from living fully. This change didn't push Jordan away. It pulled him closer. He started putting in more effort, initiating plans, and showing genuine curiosity about her interests. Seeing her thrive independently made him want to be part of her world, not because she demanded it, but because her life was something worth joining. The beauty of focusing on your own growth and joy is that it's a win no matter what happens in the relationship. If the person steps up, great. You'll have a partner who's inspired by your energy. If they don't, you're still building a life that fulfills you, which means you won't feel like you've lost yourself in the process. Your sense of worth and happiness won't be tied to whether or not someone else chooses you. In the end, when you prioritize yourself, you send a silent but powerful message. I am already whole. I am already moving. My life is exciting and full. If you want to be part of it, you need to bring something to the table and keep pace. That kind of confidence doesn't just attract the right person. It keeps you grounded, fulfilled, and unstoppable, no matter who walks in or out of your life. Being willing to walk away is one of the strongest positions you can have in any relationship. It's not about being cold-hearted or dismissive. It's about having the courage to choose yourself, respect over someone else's inconsistency or lack of commitment. The moment you decide that you'd rather be alone than be treated poorly, you reclaim your power. When you're too afraid to lose someone, you put yourself in a position where you'll overlook red flags, accept excuses, and constantly lower your standards just to keep them around. That fear makes you negotiate against yourself, sacrificing your own needs for the sake of maintaining the connection. The truth is, people can sense whether or not you're willing to walk away, If someone knows you'll stay no matter how little they give, they have no incentive to change. This isn't necessarily about them being malicious. It's just human nature. Comfort breeds complacency, but when they realize that disrespect, inconsistency, or lack of effort will actually result in you stepping away, they have to make a choice to step up or let go. And that choice reveals everything you need to know. Being willing to walk away doesn't mean you threaten to leave at every disagreement or use it as a manipulation tactic. It means you know your boundaries so well that if they're repeatedly crossed, you take action instead of just talking about it. Words lose power when they're not backed by action. Saying, "I deserve better," while continuing to tolerate poor treatment sends a mixed message. Walking away is the clearest, most undeniable message you can send. There's also an emotional strength that comes from knowing you'll be okay on your own. When you're secure in yourself, you understand that being single is far better than being with someone who drains you or keeps you in limbo. You stop looking at a breakup as a loss and start seeing it as a redirection, an opportunity to make room for the right person. The willingness to walk away isn't about giving up easily. It's about refusing to hold on to something that's clearly not serving your best interests. A perfect example of this is a woman named Tasha, who was in a relationship with a man named Marcus for nearly 2 years. Marcus was charming and fun, but he had a bad habit of disappearing for days without explanation and avoiding serious conversations about their future. Tasha brought it up many times, expressing her need for consistency and commitment, but Marcus would always give vague promises that things would change. They never did. One evening, after Marcus canceled yet another date at the last minute, Tasha felt something shift inside her. She realized she had been waiting for him to become the partner she needed instead of accepting that he wasn't willing to do so. The next day, she calmly told Marcus that she cared for him, but she was done accepting a relationship that left her feeling uncertain and undervalued. She didn't yell, beg, or try to guilt him. She simply walked away. At first, Marcus thought she was bluffing because she had always stayed in the past. But when days turned into weeks and Tasha didn't reach out, he began to understand she was serious. For the first time, he felt the weight of possibly losing her for good. He called, apologized, and said he was ready to commit fully. But by then, Tasha had already realized something even more important. She didn't want to be with someone who only chose her when he felt the threat of losing her. She thanked him for his honesty, but told him she was moving on. Walking away gave Tasha clarity and peace. She didn't just get her self-respect back. She opened the door to eventually finding a partner who valued her from the start without needing to be pushed. That's the beauty of being willing to walk away. You don't lose anything worth keeping, because the right person won't make you choose between your dignity and their love. When you have that mindset, you no longer cling to relationships out of fear. You're not controlled by the what-ifs. You know that your worth doesn't decrease just because someone failed to see it, and that quiet confidence forces people to either rise to the occasion or remove themselves from your life. Either way, you win, because you're no longer trapped in situations that drain your happiness. The ability to walk away is not just a relationship strategy, it's a life skill. It's the difference between settling for less and holding out for what you truly deserve. And when you live with that kind of courage, you'll never have to force the right person to choose you. They'll choose you gladly because they know you value yourself enough not to settle for anything less. You will force him to choose you not by begging, not by chasing, not by proving, but by living in such a way that you make him realize the choice is obvious. You are the catch. You are the answer to prayers. And if he can't see that, you won't stand around waiting for him to figure it out. Because the truth is, the right man doesn't need years to know your value. He knows and he moves. And until you meet that man, you keep shining, you keep growing, and you keep walking in your worth. Because the day you truly believe you are enough, that's the day you stop wondering if he'll choose you and start realizing you get to choose him.